Can you imagine what you would do if you were feeling insecure and someone said to you, you are not insecure, you just think you are, and you saw the truth in that statement? That happened to a man named Sydney Banks, who articulated it and called his understanding, he had a spiritual awakening, and he called what he saw from this the 3 principles. And that's where I came to be looking in the direction of spirituality. It was through Sydney Banks's realization of thought and the role that thought plays in our day-to-day experience. That was what woke me up to my spiritual nature and began my journey looking towards the role that thought plays in our experience, and what we can do if we are really struggling, if we are really bought into this idea of insecurity, what we can do to help ourselves to improve that situation for ourselves. So basically, Sydney Banks was, and this is my take on it, if there are any ardent Sydney Banks followers out there who, and I get this wrong, I do apologise, but this is what I see in this. This is my interpretation and what I have got from this. And I would invite you, in anything anyone shares, to find your own understanding, to find your own knowing within you, because that's all of these videos, everything I do, it is about pointing you back inside yourself, not having you mindlessly believe anything I say. So look inside yourself to feel and find and know what resonates with you. So my understanding is, somebody said to Sydney Banks, he was at a convention or a conference or something, trying to help himself because he was feeling so insecure. And someone said to him, "You're not insecure, you just think you are." And that sentence, "you just think you are," sparked something huge in him. It opened the universe up inside his head. He saw the role that our thinking plays in our moment-to-moment experience, and had a huge awakening moment that changed the trajectory of his entire life, stopped him in his tracks and turned around everything that he had done so far. He started on an entire different life path. And since coming across this, since realizing this for myself, since looking in that direction too, I can trace back that my problems, all the things that I struggled with in life and still do struggle with, come from this space of believing that I am insecure, believing that I am not enough, believing that there is something fundamentally wrong with me. And when I fall into the trap of thinking in that way and believing it to be true, it then has a knock-on effect of what I have to do about my life. I have to do about what's going on out here. And yet, with the realization that that isn't true, that is simply something that I am thinking in that way. And if I can allow my mind to calm, and then I can see more clearly what is really going on out here, that entirely changes everything that I do out in the world, from a realization of my true nature, our true nature, and the role that thought plays in our experience, the role that thought plays in creating our world. And one of the things that I really, really love to play with is seeing that if we think differently, the world is different. And it's not even as black and white as the fact that there is a world out there that we then think about, and if we think about it differently, we see this actual world from a different perspective. What quantum physics is really waking us up to, and I believe what Sid really deeply saw, was that the thinking that we give our attention to, that we give our that we concentrate on, the thinking that we are our consciousness, that we give our consciousness to, we actually bring that to life, which is why when we have an insecure thought, it really, really feels real, because the act of giving it attention, of putting our consciousness, our life-giving consciousness to it, actually makes it a solid reality out here. That's what creates in that way. So quantum physics is showing us that we are not something separate. There isn't a world out here that we think about and then experience. There is a world in here that is created via the thinking that we have. So changing our thinking differently through realizations and moments of seeing the power that our thinking has actually changes the physical world, because thoughts are energy and the physical world is made up of energy. That it is made up of the energy of this power, and not just the like thought with a capital T is what I believe that Sydney Banks talked about it. That's how he talked about it, and it was pointing to this, the energy that we have, our consciousness, the fact that we can be conscious of things, aware of things, give our attention to things. That is what creates what we call reality. If you look at it in there are three aspects, if you like, to life. There is the physical aspect, which most of us seem to know the most about, you know, what we see, our bodies and what we see out here. And then there is a mental a plane to life, if you like. The fact that we think and the fact that thoughts create things. Every single thing you see out in the world was at some point or another somebody's thought. This computer that I'm doing this on, computers didn't exist until somebody had a thought and then brought it into the physical plane. And everything starts, it actually starts, the starting point is our spiritual nature. The fact that we are conscious, the fact that we can have thinking, you know, if we go back to that place, that is what creates the mental plane, which creates the physical plane. So the physical plane that we see the most of, that we are most certainly in human form seems to hold our attention the most, that is actually the results of what happens, what we know about our spiritual nature, then what we do mentally, and then it creates this physical reality that we see. So understanding our spiritual nature helps us create more. A natural byproduct of that understanding is that we have more healthy thinking. We have less anxious thinking. We have much less insecure thinking. I have way less insecure thinking than I used to have. And the other thing that I see is I take way less notice of any insecure thoughts that I do have. Understanding what they are and understanding that if I give my attention to those thoughts, then they create something out here in the physical world. Realizing that I don't have to think that. I don't have to give my attention to that thought. And our thoughts are rather like a buffet, that one of those Chinese buffets that you can go to where the food just goes by on you get this, and if you want it you take it, and if you don't it carries on. You can take something else. Our thoughts are rather like that. If we don't engage with a thought, it simply passes through, which is where surrender comes in. Surrender is not engaging. It is standing back and allowing that thought to just pass and not acting on it, not putting your attention on it, not giving it lifeblood to make it something bigger. And what we can do as human beings is begin to become more conscious about which thoughts we are giving attention to. And quite frankly, yes, that is how we create our reality, by the thoughts that we give our attention to. And through a deeper knowing, a deeper understanding, that will be something, it's not something that we have to control. It's not like policing our thinking. It is through understanding we naturally begin to make better choices. So it is about the understanding and then about putting into practice some practical things that can help us to be looking in a more healthy direction. So creating more healthy things in our lives, and just coming back again to that moment that Sydney Banks had. Whatever it is you are thinking, if you are thinking against yourself in some way, that you are not good enough, that you are insecure, that there is something fundamentally wrong with you, all of those thoughts will come with a very uncomfortable feeling. And that feeling is very much giving you information about the quality of those thoughts, the truth of those thoughts, the fact that there is no truth in them. That pain is telling you to put your attention somewhere else, think something else. And basically, when Sydney Banks had his insight, his awakening moment, he realized that it wasn't healthy for him to be giving his attention to what he was calling his insecurity. If he stopped thinking in that way, it stopped being a thing. It simply didn't exist when he stopped thinking about it. And even things that are huge and solid in what appears to be our reality will crumble and stop being when we stop giving them attention. Like if you look at buildings or cars, roads, when we look at institutions, all of those things, when attention is taken away from them, they begin to crumble. What we call reality, what is truly real, will never ever crumble or change or not be there anymore. And that is our spiritual nature, the top of what creates, if you like. That will never ever change. That will never need to be sustained. That just is. And so when we look out at what we are calling reality, that is just an effect of our spiritual nature that is the effect of what is happening here, that then comes into the mental plane, that then comes into the physical plane. The reality, our spiritual nature, our spiritual truth, we will never need to sustain that or keep that going or do anything. And so we do create, by the attention that we give to things, we keep them alive, we keep them here in the physical. So if we learn to put our attention on what it is we want, when we learn to put our attention on joy and love and connection and all of the things that we want, we will sustain those in the physical plane of existence. When we put our attention on our insecurity, on our I'm not good enough, on our I haven't got enough money, I'm not feeling very well, my relationship is rubbish, when we put our attention there, we will keep those things alive in the plane of existence, the physical plane of existence. So if we want to change the physical plane, we need to understand more about our spiritual nature, which will affect our what happens mentally for us, what goes on for us on the mental plane, and then that will have a knock-on effect on what appears in our physical life. I love you guys. Thank you very much for listening. I hope there was something helpful there. What I'm really supremely interested in is helping people to be happy and fulfilled and create from a starting point of knowing that we are all whole and complete. So if you have any questions or comments, do drop a comment below, do say hi, and I will be back again in the next video. Take care. Lots and lots of love.